Welcome to How We Heard It, the podcast about music, pop culture, movies, and more, with your hosts, Wayne Bledsoe and Chuck Campbell.
Celine, this is Chuck Campbell with
Wayne Bledsoe, and
I'm John Baker.
That is, I hope, pronounced closely enough. Hello to in Kazakh to our listeners in Kazakhstan. We may just have one listener who's listening multiple times, but all I know is it's a pretty remote country for people in Tennessee. It's like got Russia on the west and northern borders, and China on the east, and then Turkmenistan and Kyrgyzstan on the south. So I don't know how many people get out there, and I don't know how they found us, but hello.
And it's actually a really big country.
It's a big country, yeah.
It's one of those things, you look at it, you hear that name, and you think, oh, it's a little bitty old place over there. It's no, it's this enormous country.
It's a big country.
Yeah.
So there you go. Welcome to episode 99 of How We Heard It. Fittingly, our topic today will be 90s music. I think this may be we were just talking about this may be the decade that all three of us were really hitting stride with music, and we were all in our elements, and we were all three young men at the time, and all three heavily invested in music, so it's probably an easiest topic for all of us to talk about. If we go back much further, I'm just an idiot, and I don't know what I'm saying.
Well, I have to say, and I'd not thought about it until I started looking at this. It's like the 80s is to the 90s the same way the 60s was to the 50s in that you had all these things that were created, and then all of a sudden it blows up in the next decade.
Yeah.
And that's what, rock and roll started in the 50s, and you got all these things happening, and all of a sudden it takes over in the 60s, and that's what had happened with hip-hop in particular.
Yeah.
From the 80s to the 90s, because the door opened with MTV and all these other things that were going on to all this different music. Corporate radio got a kick in the pants.
Right.
And you found other outlets for this stuff.
Yeah. And rock music evolved, it went from hair metal, basically, to... it had the grunge period that kind of erased hair metal.
Yeah, and totally.
So we had a few years of grunge, and then grunge, that was always going to be a short-term solution.
Right.
I didn't think grunge would ever be a big thing for a long time. And then we got into like a new rock, like modern rock and alt-rock.
But, part of that is that set up like college rock kind of became a thing, started to become a thing in the 80s with REM and all these other groups that came out. And then in the 90s, after grunge faded, it was like, boom, there's all this stuff that comes out.
So we went from like Bon Jovi and Guns N' Roses, whatever, at the end of the 80s. And then we got into grunge. Of course, it was Nirvana and Pearl Jam and Alice in Chains and all those guys. And then a few years later, we got like Beck and Nine Inch Nails, bands that didn't really sound much like each other, but Beck and Nine Inch Nails and Weezer and
My
Oasis.
Bloody Valentine.
And they all got different labels, too. It's like in the 80s, it was college rock, and then it turned into alternative in the 90s, and then it turned into... it's just that they have to have a name for every...
Yeah. And I think it was just reset. I think it was post-grunge was probably the best. It was like grunge reset rock music, and then we got all this stuff that came later in the 90s.
It was interesting because we had a band here in town that was like a hair metal band, and they were like it looks like they were they could have been big in hair metal. Mm-hmm. And they released their album right at the same time that Nevermind came out.
Yeah,
well,
and that just changed everything.
I know, and
I was working at Cats Music then, and I was the buyer for the store, so I knew what we were selling, and all those like Rat, Cinderella, Guns N' Roses, all those tight, all those blow dried hair bands, they just disappeared overnight.
Yeah. Well, that was the thing is the leader of that band called me and we were talking. He was asking me what I thought about it, and I said, it's over. I said, a year ago, like Atlantic Records, you remember how Atlantic Records was? They had all sorts of hair metal bands. Mm-hmm. Every week you'd have 5 new ones.
Yeah.
And I said, a year ago, Atlantic Records would have been all over you guys.
Right.
And I said, all you can do is kind of either wait it out or change.
Or go buy some flannel shirts.
Yeah, do something. And what happened
hiking
is
boots.
That guy became a producer, and he's made a lot more money as a producer than he ever did as running a band. But it was funny because it was just like, boom.
Yeah.
All the record companies said, we're done with hair metal.
Yeah.
I remember I was working at the record store, and I was playing in my first original rock band. I wrote all the songs for the band, and so, as you said, we were all stepping into our element of what we were meant to do. And the other guitar player in my band called me one day, and he said, "There's a band playing down at the New Daisy Theater tonight. They're called Nirvana, and I've heard about them, and I wanted to know if you wanted to go." And it was like a Wednesday night, and I was like, "Man, I got to get up early Thursday morning," and I didn't go. And he went, and like 2 days later, Smells Like Teen Spirit hit, and I just realized I completely missed the boat on that. But I remember my friend saying, "Man, that drummer just beat the crap out of the drums." That was Dave Grohl.
Yeah.
Foo Fighters still going strong, too.
So I had a similar thing because the same thing was happening in country music. Country music was going from the new traditionalists like Randy Travis and all these folks, Clint Black, to Garth Brooks. Garth Brooks hits in '89, and all of a sudden country music completely changes. But he was playing at Ella Garou's, which was this little bitty,
small club,
tiny club, and his publicist, Pam Lewis, was calling me all the time trying to get me to go to this. And I said, I got a new baby. I'm trying to, I'm spending as much time as I can home with my family. And then she finally wouldn't give up. And I said, she'd sent me his new album, his first album. And I said, I don't think it's that good anyway.
Yeah.
And I didn't get an interview with Garth Brooks for another 20 years. I mean, it was a long time.
Yeah.
But that was what the 90s were. The 90s, I didn't realize quite how much everything changed and how we were in the middle of all this.
And music, I don't know what kind of music festivals there were before the 90s, but you had Lollapalooza and you had the Lilith Fair and you had the Vans Warped Tour. You had these traveling festivals. I don't remember so much of that in the 80s.
No.
But those were big in the 90s. And then, not that we're going to spend time talking about, then you became established festivals in one side like Bonnaroo and Coachella and stuff like that.
And that's
but
the next
90s,
decade.
You had the traveling festivals, just hodgepodge of bands.
And when the Warped Tour came here to Knoxville, it was like there were all these marginal bands. They just had kind of these little cult followings. And all of a sudden, that stuff started taking off. Mm-hmm. And it was this crazy thing. You'd go to the festival, and it was like BMX bikers and skateboarders and everything. And then
X Games people.
Yeah, and all this next generation punk music, like NoFX and Offspring and.
Well, as far as we were generationally in the 90s, you had the first first millennials started being born in 81.
Right.
Okay, so Gen X was still in charge of music at the beginning of the 90s.
Right.
But by the end of the 90s, the earliest millennials were becoming adults, and then the ones just under that were teenagers. So the key listening years had shifted to the millennials, and millennials were taking over music. So it kind of was handed off from Gen X to millennials, more or less. At least the consumers were. You know, I mean, a lot of times the performers are a little older than the audience, but.
Well, I mean, another thing you mentioned the Lilith Fair. I mean, this is the decade where women really did become ascendant.
I've got that down.
Well, I know. But it was amazing to me to look at all the female artists that came out during that decade who hit.
Yeah.
I mean, prior to that, it was one here or there, one, female lead singer here or there.
Well, like Madonna, she got it kicked off in the 80s, I think. And then you had those pop singers, they're always women pop singers, but she was it was spreading. And like you say with Lilith and even Lollapalooza or whatever, women rockers became a real thing.
Yeah.
You had, long ago, it was just like Nancy Wilson of Heart. Was she playing lead guitar? And that was the only one you could think of.
Pretenders.
And then, and Pretenders. And then in the 80s, you had the Go-Go's and you had the Bangles, but they were more pop rock, very much so, not like hard rock. But in the 90s, there were a lot of women real gritty rock abilities that they were, playing guitar and singing and everything. And it was they really, came into their own, I think, in the 90s.
Yeah. Well, I mean, just the fact you had Alanis Morissette coming out. And I mean, she'd been a teen star or something, an actress or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's everybody's listening to it. She's everywhere.
Yeah.
And then
she was such a phenomenon because she was one of the first, And, you know, you got Courtney Love in the grunge world. She wasn't technically grunge, you know,
Yeah.
but...
And she took a lot of garbage because, you know...
And garbage. You had
garbage.
Garbage. I mean, there's so many bands with led
Juliana Hatfield.
Juliana Hatfield.
And, you know, and Bjork. I mean, you know, imagine Bjork hitting in any other decade.
Right.
And it was...
When was that first Sugar Cubes record? That was in the 80s, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was the 80s. But, you know, her solo stuff, all her biggest stuff came out in the 90s.
Yeah.
And it was a big deal. Liz Phair. Remember how...
Liz Phair, yeah.
You know,
she's one of mine that I'm going to talk about.
Yeah, so many women. And pop, just to focus on that for a second, kind of went from New Kids on the Block and Britney Spears and Christina Aguilera. By the end of that was like the end of the 80s, and by the end of the 90s, you had Backstreet Boys and NSYNC, and you had, as far as women went, you had, oh gosh, I don't know, but the thing is, it grew more sophisticated. It grew kind of sexier, and you had Spice Girls and stuff like that at the end of the 90s.
But the thing that really stood out to me, I mean, you're bringing up all the pop stuff, is like the difference between the light and the dark. You had the lightest stuff.
Yeah.
With all the boy bands and the Britney Spears and all that stuff. And then you had Tool and Nine Inch Nails and all this other stuff that's coming out in the 90s. It's like the total opposite.
Yeah, and I actually should backtrack.
Marilyn
New Kids
Manson.
of the Block, at the end of the 80s, it was New Kids of the Block, and Tiffany and Debbie Gibson, super light.
Yeah.
So the end of the 90s, it was Christina Aguilera and Britney Spears, and so it was all glossier and you know, sexier and all that stuff. So that happened a lot in pop. But we should talk about rap and what that did do, and hip hop, and you know, hip hop slowly spread in the 80s. You know, MTV was kind of getting it out there. MTV was a little slow to totally react to where rap was going.
Very slow.
You know, they were very, and a good example of this is Spring Break in Daytona Beach. You know, they were coming down every year, and then in 1990 they switched from just having the usual, you know, Alan Hunter, Martha Quinn, or whatever coming down to host, and then a lot of white bands performing for a very white audience. MTV caught on this, like, everybody loves rap and hip hop. It's not culturally exclusive to one ethnicity. Right. And so they started with Yo MTV Raps being a big presence in 1990, and that became the dominant thrust of what they were doing for Spring Break. And then that opened the doorway once they realized that it was, you know, culturally borderless. Rap music was. That's when you started getting, and, you know, you had Eminem by the end of the decade, but, you know, you had Vanilla Ice or whatever. And music went from like Tupac and Biggie and like gangsta rap to more broad, welcoming, you know, kind of mainstream type of music. And it totally, you know, consumed R&B and dance music, and it was also big in pop music. You know, that was right before all the pop music started having to have rap guest performers to be a hit. So anyway, and then just a quick look at Latin music also. In the 90s, you had breakouts like Ricky Martin and Enrique Iglesias and Miami Sound Machine, and that set the stage for like the 90s or the next decade having, Jennifer Lopez, and even leading up to Bad Bunny today. They first got their big break in the 90s. So it was really a cultural realignment and like more welcoming to a new generation and to new women and people of different ethnicities and all. So all of that was happening in this one decade.
Yeah, and that was one of the things that surprised me when I was looking back, is it's just all over the map. I mean, you know, you had world music, you had ska, you had all this stuff. Yeah. And it's like, I mean, you and I mean, we'd written a little bit before then. Right. In the 80s. Right. But like the 90s is like, you know, as a writer, that's when I realized, oh, well, I'm going to write about, you know, whatever. I mean, we had each other to, you know, write about the things we didn't want to write about. Right. But there was
and to bounce ideas off of, you know. I mean, I learned things from you that I was able to apply with what I was doing.
Yeah,
you know?
Same with me. I mean, the stuff that you were always onto something.
Well, yeah, you know, and that's like the personal reference point for us too. It's like we weren't just observers. I mean, we were, and personally speaking, it was the perfect time for us all three to be, we started the decade in our 20s.
Right.
You for at least a month, and John and I for a little longer. But like you said, you just had a baby, and by the end of the decade, you had 3 children. And there were just a lot of personal changes, and plus we were just at that age in life when you're open to all of this, and it was a very adventurous, tumultuous decade. It was probably the most exciting decade of my life, but I wouldn't say it was my happiest decade. There was a lot of roller coaster things going on in my life, and changes that I was going through. I was segueing from living in Florida to moving back to Tennessee as an adult, and us working together. And for me, my job kept changing. It's like I always had I was always a music writer, so they always made room for that, but they moved me. I was a travel arts and entertainment editor in Florida when I came up, and they gave me this independent, college-oriented magazine to run and everything, technically calling me a features copy editor, which was devastating compared to my title in Florida. I didn't know that's what I was coming to, but they didn't really treat me that way. And I eventually ended up on the copy desk. I ended up doing page design for the front pages and everything, but I always had that column, and that was the one consistent thing. And then eventually they made me travel arts and entertainment editor here. Yeah, but that column was this ride through, and and it underscored everything that was happening in my life.
Yeah. Well, that was the most pivotal decade for me for the most part, because the kids and then coming into my own as a writer and realizing I could write what I wanted to. That's when I started covering local music, ferociously. Yeah. And it starts with the Judy Bats, who came out and were at exactly the wrong time for a rock band too that had kind of folky sounds. Right. And then, at the end of the decade is when the V-Roys broke up, and the V-Roys were one of those kind of pioneering alt-country Americana bands. Right. And that's where Scott Miller and Mick Harrison came out of.
And you really documented what was happening in Knoxville. Yeah. And most cities our size and even bigger, they didn't really have anyone doing that. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's where I really found my identity. Right. And some of my best friends, because I started writing about music and deciding, okay, I can be friends with these people and write about them too. They're just going to get mad at me every once in a while. Right. And they did every once in a while.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, I was kind of coming into my own too, but I was not writing newspaper journalism, but I was starting to write my own songs and take my own songwriting seriously, and I came to realize that I could write about anything I wanted to write about. Yeah. Yep. And I was playing in an original band, and we were trying to send tapes out and get signed to record labels, and we toured and played all over the Southeast. And
and you weren't based in East Tennessee till the end of the decade. What was your background again? I mean, you were
I was born and raised here in East Tennessee, but then
but in the 90s.
In the 90s, we moved to Memphis in '88,
which is, for people who don't know Tennessee, that is all the way across a very, very long state.
Completely different.
We can be at the beach.
Yeah, we could get to Florida quicker than we could get to Memphis.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's flat cotton growing country, and we live in the mountains up here in East Tennessee, so it couldn't be more different. But so we lived in Memphis for 5 years, and then in '93 we moved to Little Rock, Arkansas. And so when looking at the 90s, as I usually do, I just kind of thought about, okay, what was I listening to in Memphis when I was playing in a band and working in a record store? And then when we got to Little Rock, what was I listening to there?
And those are two key different things that give you two different perspectives. You were in a band, writing your own music, and you were in a record store. Yeah. So you're right at the center, ground zero for the retail implications of music and everything.
Well, and I came to realize, so I was the buyer for the store, and so the record label execs would come, or the record label execs, they weren't execs, they were just salespeople, but they would come in and go, oh, you got to buy a whole bunch of this guy. He's going to be huge. We just know he's going to be huge. And so, all right, I'd make an end cap
3
display.
months later,
and then the next month they'd come in, and we'd sold 2 copies of that, and they were like, you got to check out this band. And I'm like, what about all these that I bought over here? Oh, that guy's out of here. Try this. And I came to realize that the artists are like the Play-Doh that you put in the Play-Doh Fun Factory. It's like they're just grist for the mill. Right. I remember distinctly, U2 was super hot in the late 80s and early 90s, and they're on Island Records, and CBS Records got to find something to compete with them. And so they're thinking, what have we got that's got a punk edge, but got kind of a political strident thing. And they think, oh, yeah, look back at our catalog. We've got Midnight Oil. And so they trotted Midnight Oil, and that was when Dust and Diesel came out, which is at the end of the 80s.
Right.
And that was their coming out party in America. They had a string of great records back in the 80s, but they were all mostly just in Australia and Europe. You had to dig for them to find them in America. But that's how the record labels used to work. I mean, they were just like, okay, we got to plug something into that slot. These guys are killing us in that demographic. We need something to plug in there.
But, I mean, it's also the decade that CDs took over as far as what was selling.
Yeah.
And everybody was, like, replacing their vinyl collections with CDs. So you had all that buzz from that.
Looking back at what the publicists were sending us, and I was going through my vinyl CDs, which I hadn't even thought about really until we started doing this, around 90, 91, they just stopped.
Right.
And all of a sudden, all the vinyl just stopped. It's like it just disappeared from the face of the earth, and it was all CDs.
Yeah.
And, and so the means, everything about music and radio and MTV, the switch it made to rap with the OT raps and everything, that only lasted for a few years. And by the mid-90s, they were going for more original programming. And they had
reality
Jackass, and they had, what was it, The Real World and stuff like that they were putting more of their focus on and stepping back from music. And that's when, YouTube, as soon as YouTube popped up, that's where all the music videos ended up going to. But there was a gap,
Yeah.
So, and we were just coming of age and really in our young adult, absorbing music. Like when you were working in record stores, John, was it like a lot of different genres of music, or did you have one specific group that would come in? Or
no, it was pretty
you had
almost
teenagers coming in for pop and
and
R&B.
We sold a lot of rap stuff. It was pretty much all over the place. I remember every August we'd get a whole bunch of Elvises.
Okay. Oh yeah.
Because it's Elvis Death Week in August, and man, there were Elvises of all shapes and sizes walking around Memphis, and we always had to buy. I always made sure to stock a whole bunch of Elvis stuff.
Aren't there like two Elvis holidays? I mean, there was like August
is when he died,
and then when he was he born like in January or February? It seemed like there was a winter Elvis period too.
I don't remember. I can't remember when he was born,
but I know he died in August.
I remember going to see Mojo
Nixon
at the Antenna Club, and he had a song called Elvis is Everywhere. Yeah. It's everywhere except for Michael J. Fox. He has no Elvis.
Well, did you notice younger people buying country music? I mean, when the whole Garth Brooks thing hit, that's what I saw. I saw all these young people and heard these young people buying country.
That's one market that Memphis really doesn't have a big, at least didn't when I was there. Really? Not a lot of people listen to country music.
That's interesting.
There are, I don't want to say this.
Memphis is a black majority city.
Yes.
And then country hasn't really tracked well with a black audience.
Yeah.
So maybe it was just, we were more like Nashville. So
a little bit, yeah.
Well, I mean, probably more like Nashville than Memphis.
Well, and if you tell someone you're from Knoxville, they'll go, "Oh, how's Nashville?"
Yeah,
they just we're not.
I don't know. Haven't been there in a long time.
We're very
talk about Atlanta though.
But I mean, to me, it's like I remember when Shania Twain came out.
Yeah,
and it was like, of course, we remember she came in the office when she was kind of nobody.
We talked about that. Yeah.
And she's a sweetheart.
She was in a fur coat, but okay.
But then her second album came out, and it was like it just exploded. And, what Garth Brooks had started, and I like Shania Twain, and I think they're both good artists, don't get me wrong. But it was like, this is pop country for sure.
Yeah,
and in fact, in Europe, they just took off the steel guitars and fiddles when they showed up on her stuff, and they just promoted it as pop.
And they just did pop music, yeah.
But it was like, I noticed just a complete shift from, it started in the 80s with people embracing traditional country, but then when Garth Brooks came in, it's like it totally changed country. And
changed the formula.
Totally. And it's what happens every time somebody is a big success, is the record companies wanted the next big success, and what they saw
How do we get that sound?
Yeah, let's get somebody who's just like this. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And that's what it was all about.
And you get a lot of pale facsimiles, you get a lot
of... Well, the same can be said of U2. It's like they came out and the Edge had this really interesting new kind of style of guitar, and then all of a sudden all these other bands trying to play with guitar with an echo on it and be the next Edge.
Yeah. Well, we'll see with me, it's like because I had been I had initially, because we had somebody else writing about rock and pop music, who later on, Betsy Pickle started writing.
Betsy, yeah, of course.
Yeah. So when I started
She's always
writing,
a film critic to me.
well, by the time you got there, that's what she was doing. She was
Yeah.
a film critic full time. But when I started writing, she was writing about rock and pop music.
Yeah, she was always well versed in music.
And I just wrote about country and jazz because nobody else knew anything about that, and we had both things happening.
Yeah.
And country music at the time was like, this is the thing that's all of a sudden taken off.
Yeah.
And then, you get to the 90s, and it's like, well, where the heck is the country music that I like?
Right.
And that's, at the time, alt country and Americana, alt country became Americana and roots music. And that's where I found some of my favorite acts of all time.
Well, I've got to tell you, I was very uncomfortable with country music when I was in Florida.
Oh, yeah.
Because, we were far enough south that it wasn't the South anymore.
Right.
Yeah. And so it wasn't really that. It was rock. It was rock in Daytona Beach, And so I knew I was going to have to address that. And it's like, even being a Tennessee boy, I'm not well spoken in country. And then what was going on in country music, and no one in the newsroom was really a fan, talking to me about it. So one of my favorite things was talking to you and saying, I really don't want to ever do anything about country again. And you were like, yeah, I'll take that. When we were going back and forth about what we would cover.
Right.
So, but I was like really skirting around. I did some interviews and, I reviewed everything from like Alabama to Sweethearts of the Radio, but I was so out of my element. And the only way I could cover them was if they were like pop music with a twang.
Right.
That's about all I could do.
Well, by the time you got here, and that's what it
became.
was.
That's what they were.
Have to write
that's exactly. And most of them weren't even from the South, even.
I just grew up in a house and I never listened to country music ever,
Right.
And never really appreciated it until probably 10 years ago. I just always just wrote it off as redneck music.
Yeah.
Well, the redneck era is what, I liked everything, and I loved it when it got to Randy Travis and Dwight Yoakam and Lyle Lovett and people who really, were singing good songs. But then in the 90s, and some people look at the 90s as their favorite era of country music. Lots of younger people do. And to me, it's just when it lost it.
My reference points for country are like Hank Williams and Patsy Cline, from
which were
my
great.
dad.
They're fantastic.
And then nothing at all until the 80s when people like Dolly Parton and Kenny Rogers were crossing over into pop.
Well, see,
so there was just a huge gap,
But that was the interesting thing about that era is in the 90s, like the Vince Gills and the Merle Haggard and even Dolly Parton.
Yeah.
Country music stopped playing them. And that's when Americana became a thing, and all those artists, Willie Nelson's another one, they played them on Americana stations. I was in the radio station WDVX started up in the 80s, and I was on the original board of that. And then in the 90s, a friend, Mike Flanagan, had a show on WDVX, and I took it over later when he died. But it's like you had this little bitty station that was getting just tons of listenership because that's where that stuff went. And, the people like John Prine who couldn't get on the radio after FM album rock went away, they all showed up on this little station, and it's like it had the most fervent following because of that.
Yeah. Mike was he was a real winner. He was so awesome, and it's like he and I would talk about music that you didn't want to talk about. But he would talk to you about music that I didn't want to talk about. Well, so he was like our John of back in the day, He's someone in the middle who
and he introduced us both to a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
He was on to the Drive-By Truckers way before I was. At least, an album before I was.
I think in my last thing when I was going through CDs, I may have mentioned this before, but I would always mark, because I was listening thoroughly to stuff that I was reviewing, and I would just write down songs I thought Mike would like. Yeah. And I would put the numbers of the tracks on the back of the CD and loan them to him. And I kept pulling out these CDs. First, I'm like, what are these numbers? Like, oh my God, Mike, so.
I'm sure he loved that.
Yeah. And he'd come back and, he loved people. I would give him like a 5-star review to someone. He would love them more than I did.
That's happened. He'd give him 6 stars.
Yeah.
That happened a lot. I remember.
And he was really into women in music. He was really into women in rock and, just,
Well, it's like, Liz Phair she was a thing, but I don't think I listened to her until Mike forced me to.
Yeah.
And the Replacements. That's a band he insisted I needed to listen to, and he was right. That's one of my favorite bands. I love them.
Yeah. R.I.P. Mike. I really miss you. I still think about you.
We all do. And
I never got to meet him.
He's great.
Well, if you talk to his nephew Johnny, there's a lot of Mike and Johnny.
Okay, I don't know his nephew. I need to meet this Johnny kid, who's probably not a kid anymore. So one thing I did, I don't know if we want to get into this or how to get into this, but I've always talked about doing my 100 favorite songs of the year, and I started that in the 80s. At the end of the year, I would just do little snippets from the songs, and I'd put 100 of them on one side of a tape so that I could just remember the year and share it with some of my friends, especially John and Ray. And for some reason, I decided to do one for the 90s of the whole decade. So I took each year of the 90s, and I took songs from that 1,000 song group to boil that down to 100 songs for the whole 90s. And that is, I don't know if it counts as an album or not, but if it does, that's my favorite album I've ever heard. And it's something I just made for myself.
Right.
But it's not even whole songs.
No, of course not. No, if it was whole songs, it would be 6 or 7 hours long, and it wouldn't have any impact.
See, I can't tolerate that.
It drives me crazy, too.
I don't understand you guys. Are you on social media? That's all anything is on.
I'm one of those people, if there's 5 seconds left and they fade it out before like a guitar note that I really like, I'll be pissed off.
Yeah.
Jeez.
I just think I feel like I'm insulting the artist if I take it off in the middle of a song.
There's no insult here with what I did. Keep in mind, I wrote reviews of all these people, glowing reviews of all these people in the Hot 100. And I put their names out there, and I listened to every word of all of their songs and, took notes. I don't think that they would be so thin-skinned that they would be upset if I took a 30-second blip from a song for my personal use, to pack it together.
Right.
Because the whole idea of that is to have a huge impact, with 45 minutes of just song after song after, of these hooks. And I just feel so jazzed at the end of it, If I had to listen to all 5 minutes of each song, I've never sat and listened to music for 6 or 7 hours. There's no way I could do that. So, this is like I'm driving, I'm driving to the store. I don't have 7 hours to listen to that.
No, but still, it's funny because one of the only times I think I ever got snippy with Sarah was we were driving home from the beach, and she would get nervous because she'd think I would be a snob about music,
right?
And it's like she'd be playing something, and all of a sudden I'd be into it, and she'd go, "Oh, well," and finally I said, "Will you stop cutting off the songs?"
You go, Sarah. I'm totally on your side with that.
Well, my wife knows. If I'm there and listening to music, she knows to let it play until the end of the song. No matter how much she wants to play the thing she wants to play, she knows that she better wait until the end of the song.
Let me ask you guys this then. If you read a book and there was a passage or a chapter or a few pages you like, would you feel like you would have to read the whole book again?
No.
Just to read that chapter? Or?
No, and there are times, there was a long Celtic piece of music I really like, but there was a little 3-minute section that I love, but it was like a different movement. It's like listening to a classical piece and saying, okay, I want to hear the second movement, but I don't have to hear the first movement.
I'm just saying life's short. If you like some great movie and everything, there was one scene you loved and it was on cable, or you might watch that one scene and not watch the movie from beginning to end over again. It's like, and that's the whole idea of this. It's like I've got the hooks of songs. There's one song I've got called That Day by Poe. And it's a song, it's like a little folk coffeehouse type song, except for this one 30-second segment. And she's just singing and playing acoustic guitar. And it's all about, there's a little bit of edge and something's not right with her relationship with somebody. And somehow she's mad at her mom, but it's real soft and gentle. And then these guitars come ripping into the middle of it. And she says, that day. And she's like, I dream that tomorrow we'll have better things to say than, I'm going to say, we'll have better things to say than you look like shit. What's your problem, bitch? Your legs feel like sandpaper. You can't do anything right, And all that meant was there was this day and this moment when she knew the relationship was over. and you don't hear it at the beginning of the song, you don't hear it at the end of the song, but that part has that emotional impact that you're waiting for. I don't want to hear the whole 4-minute song, though, when I want that part.
Well, see, this is so different because it's like when I listen to Strictly Gentile by Frank Zappa, there's a little section in it I love. But it's a 7-minute piece. Mm-hmm. But I just like, my body just, I just rise up for this piece that I love.
Yeah.
And, I mean, I'm a little deflated, for the next, whatever, minute and a half, 2 minutes before it ends. But it's like, I couldn't, not listen to the whole thing. I couldn't just pick out that one little section.
I really don't think they would be insulted. I don't think the artist would care. I mean, it's like, to me, I'm streaming together the hooks of all these songs.
But that's not the reason for me. It's like, it just has to be a complete, complete emotion.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure I've told you this before, but my two good friends that I went through college with, they lived in an apartment right next to mine, and one of them made a cassette tape that was nothing but Led Zeppelin guitar solos, just one right after the other.
Nightmare, but okay.
I was like, that's Chuck's.
I get it, though. I get what he did there.
Well, the one thing I do like was when Neil Young put his feedback and guitar pieces into one album, and it's kind of a cool ambient album.
Yeah.
I've not heard that.
It's Arc Weld. I can't remember.
Oh, yeah, I do remember that. One of them. He's put out so many albums, and they're kind of all over the place.
Well, this is the one where it's like, I read about it. Not many people bought it, but I got it to review.
I think that was when I was working at the record store.
Yeah, and it was one of those things where it's like, this is going to be a nightmare. And I listened to it, it's like, I kind of like this.
Well, anyway, to the 90s, this, I gave some indications of what I was going through and everything, moving back here and being a young man and all, and going through these job changes and personal ups and downs. And I was really fit at that time. I mean, I still work out, but at this point I was running, and I was running outside. And I don't really have a runner's body. I'm more of a linebacker than a kicker, or I'm more rugby than swimmer or whatever. But I would run, the hills and the heat of summer and the hills of Sequoia Hills and all that. And music, it just would energize me, and I would make my own music to listen to. And a lot of this, it would be the highlights of these songs, these 100 songs.
Right.
Again, it's like when I listened to it, it was just for me. I didn't sell it to anybody. I'm not sharing it with other people, but I just listened to it, and I just transport. And I think of Mike Flanagan through some of these songs. And I think I traveled a lot then. I went to overseas probably a dozen times in the 90s, and I would say 3 times were South America, once was Africa, but most of that was Europe, and Western Europe, Northern Europe, Eastern Europe. And also, I did the screenwriting gig on the side. I was in the movie industry for a couple of years in the middle of being in the newspaper industry. So that was a lot of cross country to L.A. and a few trips to Denver and Phoenix, but a whole lot of L.A. in that. And so a lot of it would color things in different ways. Like when I traveled to Europe, I would discover European music, and I would buy European music. I would see what people were hearing on European music. I told you this before, but this trip I took from Sweden to Hungary, the Spice Girls had just come out in Britain, and they had the song "Say You'll Be There." I guess it was their second hit. It was every country I went to, every city I was in, you would hear it, you would hear it, you would hear it. It was on all the music videos. And I came back to the U.S., and I went to Disc Exchange in Knoxville, and no one had heard of them yet. I said, you're going to hear about them, Yeah. But I listened to that, and I don't think of them in that song necessarily. It's all personal relationship with, seeing it for the first time in the Copenhagen, the video. I saw that for the first time. And just hearing it in Hungary when I wasn't hearing English anywhere, and all of a sudden I hear them singing in English. And that just, a lot of the bands that I took to were from these other countries that I was going to. So I would discover the music there, or they were from those countries. But anyway, that Katia Flavia, the Fernanda Abreu in Brazil, that was everywhere. I got it, bought it, brought it back. And I think of that, and I think of Brazil. And I think, so it's all about these personal associations that I have. And when you put the hooks together, I mean, my heart's about to explode at the end of every time I listen to this. And I've written them down, who's on these and everything. And that's kind of an important thing, I think, because it really clarifies where my head was in music. And if I tell people, you would probably be surprised, Wayne. It's like when I talk about, the people, it's not fluffy pop at all, hardly. There's some, but it's more it's a lot of guitars, but it's a lot of women. This is what really hit me. It all came together with Lollapalooza and Little Affair and the Riot Girls and all that stuff. And then these bands that I'd forgotten about, like Elastica, and just really hard-edged women rockers. And I mentioned them sometimes not hard-edged, but like Luscious Jackson, definitely, grading Throwing Muses, and then Belly, and just all these bands, they pop up, and it's just, and there are men in here, and there are men acts and men groups and everything, but like there are 3 of them that I have 5 songs each from, which is surprising. And one is Sarah McLachlan, and one is Sheryl Crow. Right. And the other one is Madonna, but one of those 5 for Madonna is really a copy, or a cover version by another band of a song that she had. And because I would buy those cover songs. And then the next one after that is like Tanya Donley. And that's only because she's represented as a soloist and as a member of Throwing Muses and as a member of Belly, But I don't know. I just get real, I don't know. It just like, that's what the 90s was for me. And I know that's not what they were for you guys,
Well, I've got a great memory. Lollapalooza came to Newport, Tennessee.
And about 45 minutes away.
Yeah. And Newport is as country as it gets. It was known that one time as the meanest town in America.
Cockfighting and
they would always
and moonshine.
Oh, yeah, moonshine. It's so funny because when I went up before that and did a story, to write a story, Joyce Williams, she did it on her farm. She's a great person. The guy, I think, was the head of the Chamber of Commerce. And we were driving around, and he said, we ought to just give everybody a bottle of moonshine and a bag of weed as soon as they cross the border. He said, and people are worried about corrupting our youth here. But that, it's like, at that Lollapalooza, there was Metallica, there was the Melvins, the Ramones.
In Newport.
I
can't believe that.
The Ramones in Newport, Tennessee.
It was insane. And it was like, and then Joyce Williams, who had like Marge Simpson hair, and she just wanted to have a big, blowout on her farm. She's out there parking cars like the first thing in the morning. But, I covered it, and it was a total trip. And then I'm listening to an advance of the V-Roy's new album on the way home. And it's like, to me, that was kind of like a perfect microcosm of, my life in the 90s, at least doing that career. I mean, I had, my wife and kids at home and I was going back and looking forward to being with them. But it's just like, here we are in the furthest area of East Tennessee.
The Kazakhstan of East Tennessee. We were down in the holler, and it was like...
Newport Stan.
What if they have hollers in Kazakhstan?
I'm sure they do. They're just like
don't call them that.
Us. But, it was amazing. And, I can't think of the other... The punk band had the Mohawks so big at the time that we were... it was big, but...
What, Wendy O. Williams?
No, it was...
Green Day.
No, it'll come to me in a minute. It's too late. But it was, you had all this stuff. You had some of the skate punk acts and some of the new punk acts and all this different stuff. And it was just all there.
Yeah.
It was great. But Newport being, worried it was going to corrupt their youth was hilarious.
Right.
It was. I got to say real quick, Joyce, they had a petition to keep it out of Newport, and Joyce, who I miss a lot, she was just a great person. She said, "Hell, petition don't mean shit. I signed it." She was tremendous.
I just sat down last night and thought about what was I listening to in the 90s, and just off the top of my head, and they're all related to place where I was, because my wife and I moved to Memphis in 88, and we were there till 93, and then we moved to Little Rock, Arkansas from 93 to 97, and then back to East Tennessee. And so I just thought about what was I listening to, and 93 and 94, I've got like 4 or 5 from 93 and 94. I've got one from 90, a couple from 91, a couple from 92, but 93 and 94 were heavy hitters.
Yeah. So. Well, it was an amazing decade, and I didn't appreciate it at the time just how great it was.
Well, I appreciate it on different levels, and it's like, I wrote I looked up what were the most important songs in the 90s and everything. Like Nirvana's Teen Spirit was one. And the Mariah Carey Boyz II Men song, Into the World, huge, is like the biggest number one that had ever happened. And just everything, Tupac and Whitney Houston, I Will Always Love You and stuff like that. And I gave all those great reviews and everything, but not one of those songs is on my personal 100, you know? So it was like I realized I really separated myself from what I was actually listening to. So, I mean, I'm sure you guys do that too. You know, it's like you know that someone you like maybe isn't the greatest artist, but there's just something chemistry there. You know, it's like a...
Well, it's the record store thing, too. It's like, I liked them back before they were cool.
Yeah.
Back before you know, it's like I liked R.E.M. before they signed to Warner Brothers, and then... But that's not true.
Yeah. It's like a lot of times I've found that before they were cool, they weren't really that good, you know, for a lot of bands.
Well, but it's also the era where, I mean, because of MTV, singles came back, and you had all these songs that by artists like, you know, say Smash Mouth or Marcy's Playground or something that you liked hearing them come on the radio. But, you know, I don't know that anybody would say, my favorite artist is Smash Mouth.
Right. No.
Well, but because of the advent of MTV, you had to be good looking all of a sudden, too. So bands like Bachman Turner Overdrive didn't stand a chance.
Yeah, but, I mean, in the 90s, it was, I mean, you did have some kind of homely bands out there. So I think, I mean... And you
Not
had...
that I liked any of those.
No.
Well, like grunge helped that out a lot. Yeah. You didn't have to have any personal grooming or anything.
Yeah, but I mean, you know, when you think about the kind of what I consider one-hit wonders, even though many of them had more hits, but, you know, like Closing Time by...
Semisonic.
Yeah, Semisonic. It's like, you know, did anybody consider Semisonic their favorite band? I mean...
I would hope not.
No, I mean, it's like, and really...
But I can't say that, you know, because it's like I look at my list, it's like, okay, I don't have any Nirvana or Pearl Jam songs on here. I don't have any Whitney Houston. I don't have these big names, but I valued them, and I could artistically tell that they were creative in whatever way and that they were reaching an audience beyond anyone else was reaching. And then, but I was listening to bands that were kind of the equivalent of Semisonic and loving. Amy Mann was also, I had 5 songs from her, and she was never a huge thing. No. But she's fantastic. You know, she's amazing.
And that's where she got her very big cult following.
Yeah. Yeah, so like Amy Mann, Sheryl Crow. Sheryl Crow's pretty big. Sarah McLachlan had kind of a...
and Fiona Apple. Fiona Apple became a thing.
Yeah, but she was... I think a lot of hers was that first video, that sexy video for a song that was really, the video wasn't really in keeping of what she was all about. Yeah. So it was like a curse and it was a blessing and a curse at the same time for her.
Yeah, Tori Amos, same thing. I mean, all these people came out in the 90s. It became a thing in the 90s.
Yeah. And I had 3 songs from Everclear, Front 242, and the Pixies, which are all male dominated. I mean, Pixies, of course, had Kim Deal in them. Yeah. And the 2 songs... You know, everything from Atari Teenage Riot to the Cranberries, Fleming and John, Lords of Acid. I mean, these are people who, Luscious Jackson, the Murmurs, PJ Harvey. Yeah. I mean, let's talk about PJ Harvey. You talk about gritty, raw, you know, she scared most of the male rockers, too. I mean, she still scares me. She
scares me, too. She talked about castrating bulls with her teeth or something. I remember she's like...
And gleefully so, you know.
Happy to do it.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's funny because, I mean... It's also the era where, like, some of the old guys, like Tom Petty, he released Wildflowers, probably his best album. I mean, it's holds up like nobody's business, but it's like he kind of, even though he established himself in the 80s, he really became like a giant in the 90s. And then Bob Dylan came back with Time Out of Mind when you thought, well, who cares about Bob Dylan anymore? All he's doing is, you know...
Cher.
Yeah, Cher.
She was long gone, wasn't she? All of a sudden, I don't know if that's the 80s when she was turning back time. Well, Cher pops up every decade.
But Believe, I think, came out at the end of the 90s. Yeah. And that was a huge hit. That was maybe her biggest hit. Who knows? I can't remember.
Certainly one of the biggest.
But yeah, I mean, it was all over. And I mean, there was plenty of good things in the 2000s. But man, there's no more tumultuous decade other than the 60s than the 90s.
All right. And I thought it was just my life.
No, I mean...
And maybe part of it was the aggressive music I was running to. I mean, all the Chemical Brothers, they are on my list. And, anyway, the music I was listening to and the music I was listening to in my pastime, and then the music I was writing review. It's like it's all in different pieces in different compartments.
Yeah.
But the 90s, I don't know if my life would have been a little different if I'd hit 20s in the 80s or in the 2000s or whatever, and I don't know.
Yeah.
But I think something for people who aren't our age to draw from this is like, try to, again, this is like probably my best memory of anything of all is triggered by this album from the 90s because it's 45 minutes of nothing but that's part of my life.
You're gonna have to just make me a copy of this, Chuck. I really want to hear it. I want to see what
it drives you crazy because it's just like
would.
It's like chorus, and all that stuff, and not a whole lot. I mean, there's some obviously. If I've got Sarah McLachlan and Amy Mann on there, it's not just like this one unending scree. But
it's I hadn't thought about it till just now, but I mean, my kids were all little in the 90s. They were all young. And they were listening to music and listening to stuff. And when I talk about the singles, I mean, that's one of the reasons that I would be listening to those singles more than normal.
Because that's what your kids were listening to.
Because my kids were listening to them. They get turned on to them. And I got to tell you a funny story. It's like the Columbia Record Club was still going on then.
Yeah.
And my mother-in-law, late mother-in-law at the time, she was going to get each one of the kids an album. And Ruth, my late wife, she said, very serious, she said, listen, this is going to bother you, but you're just going to have to be good about it and not say anything. Don't make him feel bad. Rylan, who was my middle one, he's going to get butterfly kisses. and I'm like, really?
I mean, I have to listen to it a bunch.
It means I'm going to have to shut up when it comes on, and he likes it so much. But it was so funny because she was so serious.
Yeah.
Like I was going to have a mental breakdown because her child loved the song Butterfly Kisses. A couple of years later, he was listening to King Crimson with me, so it's all good.
It's all good. Yeah. I mean, that's just, it's like there's so many things. Like, I mean, I did like some of the hit bands well enough to like Blur and Radiohead, Dandy Warhols. Those are all in my top 100 songs. But so was like Enigma and Everlast and Pretenders
Everlast,
and B-52s.
Yeah. I remember you loved Everlast.
Susie and the Banshees. It was like the needle was just all over the place.
Yeah.
But there was that consistent theme of the energy of a young man trying to get his life going the way he wants.
And we were both listening to world music that was coming out, and listening to different aspects of it.
Yeah.
I mean, it was all over.
Well, and there's a reason why record store employees always listen to the weirdest stuff, because you're forced to listen to the Mariah Carey Christmas album 5 times a day during the holiday season, and you're like, I got to listen to anything but that, or whatever, whatever's the big top 100. I was always averse to, and we've discussed this, I never paid attention to the top 100 Billboard.
And the time you were working at record stores were still a big thing. We all still went to record stores to find our music.
And you go there and hang out for an hour and go through
Exactly.
Selling bobbleheads and candles and everything to stay afloat. It was when you just sold music, and that's all people wanted. And
I'd spend hours in record stores just flipping through to see what I didn't have that I wanted.
Shh. Okay, sorry. Mic cable problem.
But this, the thing about this list too is it always jars me with people I've forgotten about, like the band Catherine. That was Darcy from Smashing Pumpkins. The band she went into. Yeah. I don't have the Smashing Pumpkins in there, but I do have Catherine. Well, yeah. Well, you've got a list. What have you got?
Well, I'll go fast. I'll go in chronological order.
Okay.
I've got one from '90, and that's Fugazi Repeater, which is just a killer album. The thing that I love about Fugazi, they're from D.C., punk band, straight edge. Ian MacKaye is the lead singer, and they refused to play any place that wasn't all ages, and they refused to play any place that charged more than $5 to get in. Mm-hmm. And on their CDs, they printed, this CD costs $10. If you see this in a record store and it's marked up, then just send us $10 and we'll send you the CD. It was very principled.
Yeah.
And they would stop a show. If somebody started slam dancing or something, Ian would stop the show and say, all right, hang on. You're going to hurt somebody. Stop that. And he'd get in conversations with people in the audience. I just really love that band. 91, I've had Robin Hitchcock. I was listening to a lot of Robin Hitchcock and the Egyptians at that time. one of my top 3 favorite bass players, Andy Metcalf, was a bass player in that band. And the album Perspex Island, it's got the song So You Think You're in Love and Ultra Unbelievable Love. And it's just, he writes really great, jangly guitar pop stuff with good harmonies. And so I loved that one. 92, Sonic Youth put out Dirty. There's a song on there, Sugarcane, that's just a killer song. And Sonic Youth is kind of an outgrowth of grunge, but I think it's a little different because they used all kinds of weird alternate tunings, and they'd like have to change guitars every song because every guitar was completely modified to make that specific sound for that song. They'd stick screwdrivers in their strings, and
they showed up in several of my annual top 100s. They didn't have it that made.
They were a really original band.
Yeah, they were.
93 was a big year. Midnight Oil, Earth and Sun and Moon was great. The Posies, Frosting on the Beater, I listened to that album constantly. And so the Posies, they were a band that when they first came out were kind of college rock, clean, jangly guitar, and then Nirvana happened, and Frosting on the Beater was their first thing.
I remember when, like, the album, before they got signed to a major label, somebody sent it to me. It's like, who are these guys? Where are they from? It's like this super cheap album cover. Mm-hmm. It's like, damn, that's a good band.
Yeah, they were a really good band. But Frosting on the Beater was their kind of response to grunge, and it's got mud in the guitars. It's really heavy, but still they retain their melodic sense. Liz Phair, Exile in Guyville was in 93.
Yeah, that was classic.
And the theme there was that she wrote a song-for-song response to the Rolling Stones' Exile on Main Street. Yeah. And it's debatable. I've tried to listen and see if I can tell what song is about what song, but nonetheless, it's a great record. And Liz Phair, just as a college student, 4-tracker home recorder, and she just started recording this stuff, and she was singing just exactly whatever she felt like singing about, and it was bawdy and sexual, and people were shocked by how open she was about sex.
And there's some other gals out there at the same time. I mean, it was like such a time for women, and she was like kind of a leader of it in the moment.
Let's see. Number 93 is Smashing Pumpkins' Siamese Dream. I listened to that album so many times. There's a million great guitar tones on that. Billy Corgan, whatever you want to say about him, he's a master at guitar tone. Just fantastic. And then 94 was a huge year for me. As Pearl Jam, Vitalogy came out then, Spin the Black Circle, Last Exit. Great hard rock band. I've mentioned American Music Club. They put out San Francisco that year. The first song on there is called Fearless, and it's just so intense. There's something, Mark Eitzel is the singer, and he has this way of making you just sense how desperate he is to do whatever it is he's singing about. Superchunk, Foolish.
Yeah.
Love that record. I love Smashing or Superchunk. Just like, I love them to death. Pavement, Crooked Rain came out in 94. Pavement are a great band. Overlooked, I think. And Frank Black, Teenager of the Year.
Yeah.
Great record. He has the guitar player on there is a guy named Lyle Workman, and he's a really great guitar player. And that album is just really, the songs are coherent. They're good pop songs, one right after another. And I don't know. Those are my top 90s records.
Yeah. Well, my number 100 song, the lowest ranking song, was Red Hot Chili Peppers' Give It Away.
Really?
And my number 1 song was Justify My Love by Madonna, just because it was Madonna's Big Sex album. It was Paris. That's where they made it in a hotel there, and just all of that stuff. But everything in between is just like all over the place. You got the Janet Jacksons and the B-52s. The only B-52 song I have on here is Good Stuff. But it's not just Good Stuff. It's the Moby's Shadisher remix of Good Stuff, and it's like just this insane manic 200 beats per minute type song. And who else? I just thought of another one anyway, I'm getting bogged down, but it's just all over the map, people I've forgotten or people that I'll always remember because of this. This is kind of like an oral postcard or diary or something like that. And the beauty of the memories that are triggered by music are really something to value. And if you're young, if you can find a way to, you don't have to do a top 100 or anything like that, but if you save this and preserve this, and it'll always be with you, and when you're in your 70s and 80s, it's something that
I can see the value in having snippets of songs all together with a whole bunch of stuff.
Yeah, and and it's because it's personal. It's not. I separate myself from the writer of the things that I knew. Were great songs, but I don't have specific memories of something about me. But it's certainly worth finding a way to save this and incorporate it.
I don't listen like that, but
I know.
I can see the value in it.
Yeah. And like I say, the artist wouldn't be upset. I'm sure, especially today. I mean, you can't. Every Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, it's all 15 seconds. It's like half of the length of mine things are. And if they get like a 15-second blurb that everybody's dancing to and doing their own video, that's gold. That's worth everything to them. So they're not going to be like, oh, you need to hear the oboe solo or something like that.
The band, it just came to me, the band I was trying to think of earlier was Rancid.
Oh,
Rancid, yeah.
Okay. Not a big fan of Rancid, but they were there at Lollapalooza.
Oh, and a tip of the hat to my friend Ray. There was one song on my 100, and for years I haven't known who the act was. I forgot, And it's like, and all I knew it was a British band, and it was probably the early 90s, and it had at least one young black woman singing, but it seems like there were two young black women singing. And it was a real grinder, kind of a Euro, kind of electronic, but dance and everything. And all I knew is that the chorus was freaky, freaky, freaky. And I said, Ray, can you help me figure? I said this to him yesterday. He goes, Freaky by Soho. And I looked up Soho, and it was like, it was these two, it was twin sisters. Those were the two singers. And then there was a third member. But so that he filled in the blank for the last song there.
Funny.
Well, anything else to say, or should we just chug along to...
I got some recommendations.
Recommendations?
Yeah, I got some too.
Right, go for it.
Me or John? Go. John's ready. Go, John.
All right. Well, for music, I want to recommend the New Pornographers, the Former Side Of. It's their newest record. It just released a couple of weeks ago. It's pretty down on the down low. A.C. Newman, who's just a tuneful guy, man, he can write such great songs, and they're normally real upbeat. But this one, he's kind of in a more introspective mood, but it's still really good record. I don't think there are that many bands out there that have put out a string of great records like the New Pornographers have.
Cool.
And then, are we just doing music and then coming back for movies?
That's what we normally do.
Okay, I forgot the protocol.
This is the 99th show, John.
Full confession, John's just back from the beach, so it's okay if you're a little... Go ahead, Wayne.
All right, I'm going to recommend, and I hope I haven't recommended it before, but because we're doing the 90s, and it's one of my favorite albums of the 90s, Car Wheels on a Gravel Road by Lucinda Williams.
Great record.
It's a classic. It's her breakthrough album. She worked on it for years before it came out. Gurf Morlix worked on a version with her, and I think they ruined their relationship over her not going with what he had, which was probably similar to what she got. But it's just one of the best albums by a singer-songwriter ever.
And she ate some of the gravels before she.
She
does chew up her words.
Yeah.
It's an idiosyncratic part of her delivery.
I love the way she rolls the words around their mouth before they come out.
Yeah,
and you don't. I know.
No, we talked about this a few weeks ago. We were talking about Lana Del Rey, and you said you sound like she
mumbles.
Yeah, and I said, well. but we admit we both like Lucinda Williams and Lana Del Rey.
Yeah, we do. Okay, all right. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. So I was going to get a 90s album, but instead I went with a 2008 album that harkens the 90s.
Okay.
And it's called Turn It Loose by Ill Ease and the Racket. And this is a one-woman band, I guess, Elizabeth Sharp. And you might like it. It's pretty experimental stuff. And it's kind of like it harkens like 1990s kind of slacker punk, if you can imagine those two together. And it's very offbeat, and she just loops in. She uses a lot of loops and everything. And she sings, and she hits these choruses, and then she just brands the choruses over and over. And like there are a couple of songs, It's a Downward Spiral, which she's just like going, it's a downward spiral, it's a downward spiral. Or Hate the Game. That's a slower song. She's talking about Hate the Game. But my favorite song is called Here Comes Trouble. Uh-huh. And it's basically, it's like she kind of mumbling, I guess, but not really. But it's like, I don't know what I like, but I know what I want. Here comes trouble. Walking down the street. Here comes trouble. The kind of like to me. And then she goes back to, I don't know what I want. And it's just so infectious. And she takes that little bit of that song. I listen, very hypnotic, but also rock, it's guitars and all, but just very different. Illy's and the Racket, Turn It Loose. I listen to other songs by her, and she gets so heavy into deconstruction that aren't on this album, these other songs. I don't know if I could recommend them because they're just too much for me. I mean, if you like what's the kind of jazz, free jazz or whatever, if you like that kind of stuff, maybe you would like it, but she went too far for me. But this one album is cohesive enough and branded enough with the verses and stuff that it just really gets in your brain.
Cool.
All right, well, I discovered on YouTube the other night, it is a mockumentary about a fictitious band. It was put together by Fred Armisen and Bill Hader, and it's called Gentle and Soft, The Story of the Blue Jean Committee.
I didn't know that's... Okay, all right. I saw a picture from that.
It is hilarious. It's got cameos from Cameron Crowe, Daryl Hall, Kenny Loggins, and Chuck Klosterman, among other people.
Wow.
But it's about... So they start out, and they're from Chicago, and they speak when they interview Fred Armisen and Bill Hader. They're in separate locations, and you figure out why as the plot goes. But they start out, and then they both are talking with Chicago accent. Yeah, we started out, we were playing the blues. We played the blues. We were a blues band. But then and Irving Azoff, they call him Izzy something. Azoff. I don't know what that, but
used to be the
him.
head of
it's him.
Columbia Records.
Right. It's him. And he's like, yeah, well, I used to, I'm kind of famous for rebranding bands. And so they recorded their first blues album and it went nowhere. And so he said he rebranded them as a denim-wearing, long-haired, hippie California band. And so that's what they did. And they put out one album called Soft and Gentle. And then royalties got all screwed up, and one of them made money, and the other one lost everything. And it's got all the rock cliches, and all Daryl Hall's like, yeah, man, the Blue Jean Committee, they were that's where I started, just with them, the Blue Jean Committee, and it's really funny.
What's it on? Where are you going to find it?
It's on YouTube. It's just 45 minutes long.
Oh, okay.
Cool. It's a short film, but those guys are hilarious.
Well, I want to recommend Alice Doesn't Live Here Anymore from 1974. It's about to come out on the Criterion Collection this summer. So it's a good time to watch it again. It's Martin Scorsese's first sort of mainstream film. He'd made Mean Streets before that, and he'd done a couple of things with Roger Corman before that. But it is Ellen Burstyn. She got Best Actress for it in 1974. And it is just a great movie. It's about a woman her husband, who's kind of an abusive jerk, is killed right in the beginning of the film, and she decides to go to California, where she grew up, take her son, and become the singer that she always wanted to become. And she gets stopped on the way there and becomes a waitress. And it's really funny. It's really real. Alfred Lutter as the kid is great. Chris Christopherson as the love interest in it it's definitely his best movie. It's best acting performance.
That has nothing to do with the old sitcom Alice, right?
My God. When the sitcom Alice came out, it was based on Alice Doesn't Live Here Anymore.
Right.
It was just,
only loosely based.
Oh, my God. It was excruciating. Yeah. I hated that show.
You even hated
Did they say Kiss My Grits and Alice Doesn't Live Here Anymore?
No. And the character that Flo is modeled on is Diane Ladd plays her. She is hilarious. She is so good. And what she says is way different than Kiss My Grits.
Well, yeah.
But it's just a great movie from start to finish. I remember I saw it at UT the third time I saw it. They showed it. And, you don't expect guys to like this movie.
Right.
Because it's about a single mother.
And guys just hate watching women on film, huh?
Well, I mean,
I don't know, but you're right. I mean,
Ellen Burstyn's kind of dowdy.
Narcissistic,
she's beautiful in her way, but, she's not playing a woman that's supposed to be really beautiful.
Right.
But anyway, I remember coming out of it, seeing it the third time, And this guy came out with his girlfriend. He said, "That's the best movie I've seen in I don't know how long." Yeah. And it's like, it is. It's terrific. It's so much fun. Yeah. And it's a slice of life movie. It's Martin Scorsese doing something other than gangsters and tough guys. And it's sweet. It's terrific.
And it's not based on Go Ask Alice, right?
No, that's a totally different thing.
Separating all of our Alices out there. Or Alice in Wonderland.
But, I mean, Ellen Burstyn had done a lot of good movies. Yeah. She's done The Last Picture Show, and she's great in that. But this is
a renowned movie, too.
It made her into the star that she deserves to be. And I'll watch her in anything now because she was so good in that. And she produced it. And it was funny because I saw an interview with her, and she was looking for directors, and somebody suggested Martin Scorsese, so she met with him, and she said, "Do you know anything about women?" And he said, "Well, I'm learning." But
so
anyway,
kinda.
It's one of my desert island movies. It'd be one of my top 5 movies of all time.
Assuming a desert island has a theater.
Yeah, assuming a desert island.
Or at least a TV.
Yeah, I got a TV and a DVD player. I'll watch it over and over.
Okay, I've got Lee Cronin's The Mummy. This came out April 9th of 2026. It's a supernatural horror movie, and it's a Monster Blumhouse production. It is like a dual, horror production companies together working to put this out. It's, of course, directed by Lee Cronin, who did Evil Dead Rise from a pretty recent 2023, one of the Evil Dead movies. Anyway, Jack Rayner, who was the boyfriend in Midsummer, the ill-fated boyfriend in Midsummer.
Very ill-fated.
Yes, he plays like a TV reporter. And they're an American family living in Egypt, and he and his wife, and they've got 2 kids. The girl's maybe 10 or 8, and the boy, the younger, is like 8 or 6. And so they have this life, and they're looking for big breaks and everything, and their daughter disappears. She just disappears. And there's a backstory that you're also getting some of. I don't want to give any of that away. And there's an investigation as to what happened to this girl, where she is. And then you just fast forward, and they're living in New Mexico, and they don't have their daughter. And it's like 8 years later, and they've had another daughter, who at this point is about 8. And they get a call that says, "We found your daughter, and she's kind of alive."
Ooh, kind of.
So, yeah, and it was kind of like they didn't know what to make. They were just so thrilled to know they had their daughter. And they found her in a sarcophagus wrapped in parchment, and she's very, disabled now, and she's nonverbal, and there's something going on in her. They said physically she's fine, so they just get her. They bring her home, and they're going to take care of her at home. And they're living at this point with the mother's mother, so the grandmother is now part of the story too. So you've got 2 kids. The boy is now like 16, the little boy who knew the girl, and then there's another little girl who's like 8 now, and all these things start happening, and the girl, and she's way too much for them to handle and take care of, and but they're just determined. I mean, if you have a disabled person, that you're taking care of, you just do whatever you got to do. But this was way beyond anything, because there are supernatural elements and everything. Right. And it becomes kind of like, I don't like mummy movies in general, but it becomes kind of like a mummy movie along with Night of the Living Dead, a zombie movie, and The Exorcist. So you've got all this stuff like playing with this girl and how it's affecting everyone else in the house. It's pretty harrowing, everything. The one thing I don't like about it, and it's not got anything to do with the story itself, but there's kind of rough edits, and it's kind of, you feel like there are gaps maybe in like where someone is supposed to be, or what happened to this, or why isn't that resolved. It's not huge, but it's kind of like this ongoing annoyance. Maybe like the editing was maybe they had to cut a lot out of it or whatever. But it still gets down to this story, and I did actually enjoy it as someone who doesn't like mummy movies, just because there are so many different elements going on. And what do you do with someone who's kind of conscious? And their hope is that they're going to bring her back and make her normal again. Right. But, this kid is like way far gone, and they don't know how she lived and why she's technically healthy, but very, messed up. Yeah. And the whole family gets involved, and it's pretty good, scary movie. I saw it in the theaters. I'm sure by the time this comes out, you Google it, it'll be streaming somewhere. Cool. Or you can wait till Halloween to be a good Halloween movie.
Cool.
Okay, well, that's it for episode 99. Thank you for listening to us, people. And, well, if you want to follow us on social media, we're on Facebook, Reels, Instagram, X, TikTok. Our TikTok is actually picked up. I've been saying stuff like, I don't know if we want to keep doing TikTok, but now TikTok, we're reaching people somehow with, I don't know what. I don't understand any of this, but it's good to know. And if you have any feedback for us, if you got any suggested topics or just feedback, please be kind. You can write us at howweheardit at gmail.com. Howweheardit at gmail.com. Cool. And we'll come back with episode 100.
100.
Okay. We'll do a top 100. All right. Thank you, everybody.
You've been listening to How We Heard It with Chuck Campbell and Wayne Bledsoe, a podcast about music, movies, art, culture, whatever it is that's on their mind. How We Heard It was recorded at the Arbor Studio in Knoxville, Tennessee by me, John Baker. How We Heard It is a Cozy Planet production. If listening to this podcast has given you a burning sensation, then we recommend you sit in a hot tub until your symptoms fade away. If you'd like to reach out to Chuck or Wayne or even me, you can send an email to howweheardit at gmail.com. So thank you for listening, and come on back and we'll have another episode for you next week.